Okay, welcome back to another adventure of Tucci Stream Reads. I am your host, Tucci, also known as Touche, Tooch, Tooch Magooch, the Tuchinator, and for some reason, Max Powers. Today, we're going to be reading the Wikipedia article on Neo-Advaita. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Neo-Advaita? No, it's Hindu, so it would be more Hindu accent on it. Sorry, give me one second. Okay, we're back. All right, let's take a look at this. Neo-Advaita, also called the Satsang-movement, is a new religious movement emphasizing the direct without the need of preparatory practice. Its teachings are derived but not authorized by the teachings of 20th century sage Ramana Maharshi, as interpreted and popularized by H.W.L. Poonja and several of his Western students. It is part of a larger religious current called immediatism by Arthur Versluis, which Transcendentalism and New Age millennialism, self-empowerment and self-therapy. Neo-Advaita makes little use of the traditional language or cultural frames of Advaita Vedanta and enlightenment experiences induced by Neo-Advaita as superficial. Interesting. I did not know there was actually a feud between New Age thoughts and New Age religions. The stereotype that we see in Western culture is always like peaceful and pacifist, and I guess there's a feud going on. Anyway, teachings is self-inquiry via the question, who am I? This recognition is taken to be equal to the Advaita Vedanta recognition of the identity of Atman and Brahman, or the recognition of the formless self. By the way, if you're following along with this, good for you, because I can't. I don't know what a lot of these contexts are in terms of Advaita Vedanta, or what the context of preparatory practice is. But let's keep going. According to the Neo-Advaitins, no preparatory tradition insight alone suffices. Poonja, who is credited as one of the main instigators of the Neo-Advaita movement, saw this realization liberating further rebirth. According to Poonja, karmic tendencies remained after enlightenment, but the enlightened person was no longer identified with them and therefore did not karmic. Transcending ego was possible. Okay, I'm kind of following along at this point. For Poonja, ethical standards were based on a dualistic understanding of duality and the notion of an individual agent of the self. The illusory realm of relative reality was ultimately irrelevant. History. According to spiritual is Ramana Maharshi, and method of self-inquiry could easily be transposed to North America's liberal subculture. Popular as far back as the 19th century. Um, In the 1930s, Ramana Maharshi's teachings were brought to the West by Paul Brunton, a theosophist in his A Search in Secret Osborne in the 1960s. Ramana teachings in the U.S. To all the people out there who are Indian and Dave, I am so sorry. I know I'm butchering these names, but like, I apologize. Anyway, since the 1970s, Western interest in Asian religions has seen a rapid growth. Ramana Maharshi's teachings have been further popularized in the West via H.W. Poonja and his students. Poonja, better known as Papaji, told, inferred, or allowed hundreds of individuals to believe they were fully enlightened simply because of awakening. It was those students who initiated the Neo-Advaita or Satsang. Being spread by websites and publishing outlets which give an easy access to its teachings. Okay, I'm gonna take a stop here. Like, big push and publishing companies who have a profit-based motivation. That is every major movement, no matter how, non-financial focused it is, by popularizing it and publicizing it. That's just kind of how these things work, unfortunately. You can't be a successful artist or philosopher or writer without a wealthy benefactor. And it sucks. It sucks because let's face it, like in America, we are brought up, taught that America is a meritocracy, right? The smartest and the best succeed, and the people with what's the word they use? Low skilled workers or unskilled workers, they don't succeed because they can't compete in the marketplace. And it turns out like you need somebody with deep pockets who can help support your ideas. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let's continue on with this article. The Ramana effect. Popularization of Ramana Maharshi teachings in the West. According to Lucas, Ramana Maharshi was well known for emphasizing due to a portable practice and a transposable message. Ramana Maharshi's main practice via the question, who am I, is easily practicable in a non-internalized context. His not have to adopt the Vedantic culture, nor to commit themselves to an institution or ideology to be able to practice self-inquiry. Ramana Maharshi himself did not demand a shift in religious affiliations and was himself acquainted with Western religions. Using quotes from the Bible, Neo-Advaita have further de-emphasized as a form of self-help, which is easily accessible to a larger audience. Western discourses. The Western approach to Asian. I have a friend who's an artist up in San Francisco. He is of Asian. Born and grew up in Japan, and a lot of her work focuses on the what's the word he uses? The not just the othering, but the exoticism around Asian cultures and Asian stuff in general. And it's a weird thing of like exoticizing it by saying it's wonderful and putting it on a pedestal, but also that duality of othering it at the same time. Anyway, The Western approach to Asian Enlightenment traditions is highly eclectic, drawing on various Asian traditions, as well as numerous science and politics. So here's another thing, actually, that my friend Midori actually says is that a lot of times Asian lumped together. Like they're eclectic, not because people are authentically interested in all of these different ideas and how they can, but as a monolith. New Age millennialism, Zen, self empowerment, and self therapy to transmit its teachings. It makes little use of the traditional language or cultural frames of Advaita Vedanta, Western construction of experiential and perennial mysticism, to the disregard experiential and perennial mystical framework emphasizes perennialism, the idea that there is a common mystical core to all religions, which can be personal experience. It has pervaded the Western understanding of Asian religions and can be found in Swami Vivekananda and also Radha. Suzuki and his decontextual and experiential account of Zen Buddhism. Also be found in the theosophical New Age culture, with influences like Aldous Huxley's The Perennial Philosophy and The Doors of Perception, and writers like Ken Wilber. Greg LaHood Advaita as an ingredient of cosmological hybridization, a process in which spiritual paradises are bound together, as exemplified in American Transcendentalism, New Age, transpersonal psychology, and the works of Ken Wilber are examples. Brown and Leledaki place this hybridization in a structured approach, pointing out that with a historic past, which is largely factitious. Oh, I mean, if that's not the great example of a anyway, Brown and Leledaki Orientalism. Yep. Western Orientalism, the fascination of Western cultures with Eastern cultures, but all practices images of Brown and Ladaki also note that this Orientalism is not a one-way affair, but that there have been a representatives of traditions over the last 150 years. According to Arthur Versluis, Neo-Advaita is part of a larger religious current which he calls immediatism, the assertion of spiritual illumination without much, if any, preparatory practice. Preparatory practice is just a reference to study and learning and understanding a tradition. That seems to be what it is about, anyway. Which religious tradition? Its origins predate American Transcendentalism in American gurus from New Age religion. Versluis describes the emergence of promise instant enlightenment and liberation. These include Eckhart Tolle and Andrew Cohen. Immediatism refers to a religious assertion of unmediated spiritual insight into reality, typically with little or no prior training, which some term enlightenment. According to Versluis, immediatism is typical for Americans who want religion as far back as Platonism, I think that's derived from the Greek philosopher Plato, and also includes perennialism. Don't know who that is. To points to Ralph Waldo Emerson and its key ancestor, who emphasized the possibility of immediate direct. I don't know if this is a right comparison, but also I saw a lot of back in 2016 there was a pipeline up in North Dakota that they were trying to build, and there through a specifically an indigenous tribal region, indigenous reservation. And there was a ton of protests there to try and stop. That pipeline should not have been built, or should it have been built? And sure enough, after they did build it, the pipeline burst and had a leak. So, but as Standing Rock, there were legitimate protests who wanted to stop and were doing everything in their possibility to stop. However, those legitimate protesters also commented and were very vocal about the fact that there were a bunch of these like protesters who kind of had high aspirations but low training on how to protest effectively, and they just saw it as like compelling. For a few days, ate the rations and resources that were there, and then they just fucking took off because they wanted to be part of the movement. And so while we need to honor and respect the actual protesters that are doing good work to prevent things like this, we also need to be cautious not just of others but of ourselves so that we can actually help those people who are in need, these impacted populations, rather than fucking taking all of the food. Okay. The article. Criticism of Neo-Advaita. Neo-Advaita has been called a for its emphasis on insight alone, omitting the preparatory practice. It has also been criticized of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana never claimed to have disciples, never appointed any successors. Practice. Insight alone is not enough. Some through the illusion in teachers and their satsangs are considered to be superficial. Practice is necessary. According to Dennis Waite, Neo-Advaita to remove ignorance, but does not offer how to remove ignorance. Oh, Advaita Vedanta takes years of practice, which is quite different from the Neo-Advaita claims. Classical Advaita Vedanta uses the fourfold disciplines to train students and attack does not explain. Years of committed practice is needed to sever or destroy the occlusion, the so-called bodily sheets and vritis, and the granthi. After awakening, post-awakening sadhana or post-satori practice is necessary. All of the great post-awakening sadhana, including Ramana Maharshi, ever accepted his first student. After realization, further practice is necessary to ripen the fruit, as stated by Miss. Ed Musga refers to Nisargadatta, stating he met his teacher in 1933 visiting many shrines, temples, and teachers across India, until he recognized there was no difference in his beingness no matter where he was. So he returned home to his wife and business in 1930. Holy shit, he left for like, fuck me. Apparently, he spent many years with another disciple of his teacher, wherein they both worked out the concepts he put forward in the book I Am That. He did not accept students for another 13 years in 1951. He's still maturing, learning, changing, even though he already had a firm grasp on the absolute. I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, now I understand why people are attracted to organized. It's a lot. Follow rules to live life. Years on a vision quest to find your own. Last paragraph. Lineage. Relation between Ramana Maharshi and Neo-Advaita. Nothing that Ramana never promoted. Noting that Ramana never promoted any lineage, did not publicize himself as a guru, have disciples, and never appointed any successors. Despite this, there are numerous contemporary teachers who assert are said by others to be in his lineage. These are disputed by other teachers. No lineage from Rome. Have also noted that like Mr. Maharaj did not charge fees or donations. That was interesting. That was very interesting. I think I picked this from a list of meditation articles on Wikipedia like a year ago or more to study on meditation and stuff for my Exploration Station meditation series. And just am now getting around to it. And I did not realize that it was so controversial and there was so much difference. Anyway, that is all for today. I hope you had a wonderful day. Take care.